And hello YouTube, and welcome back to another episode of The Zone TV Movie Entertainment with me, your host Jonathan, once again bringing you my thoughts and review for the brand new Quentin Tarantino film, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, starring Leonardo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, other people, and of course Margot Robbie. So, what is this movie about? Well, it's pretty much an homage to the old school Hollywood, you know? You got Leonardo DiCaprio's character. He's playing an actor in this movie because he is an actor. He's playing an actor who basically is like the biggest television star in the 60s. And, he's getting to that point where he's like, oh, am I going to be just known as a TV guy or whatever? So, he starts getting into, actual movies and pretty much playing the same character. And then you got Brad Pitt's character, who's pretty much his stunt double, and the two of them are like peas in a pod. They're like best friends, but they always work together. But a lot of people are very sketchy with Brad Pitt's character because they're not, he has a dark past that comes up in the movie. I don't want to spoil it for you. So then you have the two of them pretty much doing what they do best. You have Brad Pitt basically doing what he does best, being a stuntman. You have DiCaprio literally trying to become the actor in Hollywood. And in the 60s Hollywood, you get to see them do and how they become who they are. And for the most part of this movie is actually pretty cool because there were some moments in the movie where you get to see them go on sets of Hollywood, movie sets, and pretend to be. It was really cool seeing DiCaprio play an actor in Hollywood, and how an actor would go on set, read a script, forget his lines, and like, oh, what's my line again? It's this line, or okay, rerun the tape again. That was actually pretty cool. And of course, you got Brad Pitt basically being his kind of like his wheelman. He drives him everywhere. And he gets himself into some kind of trouble in a way, not too much, but one of those moments where Brad Pitt, he plays that tough guy, but you're not really sure if he's really legitimate who he's supposed to be. No, he is who he is in this movie. It's kind of cool. And then of course you have Margot Robbie in this movie, and Margot Robbie's just playing an actress in this movie. Now, you see her hang out with a bunch of people and pretty much go to party, and that's pretty much it with Margot Robbie's character. What I liked about this movie is the chemistry that DiCaprio and Brad Pitt have with each other. That's like, yes. Everybody, I think a lot of people wanted to see that pairing, and to see this in this movie was awesome. They are great in this movie. DiCaprio is DiCaprio. Brad Pitt, man. Tell you, Brad Pitt's a good actor, but when he puts on his acting shoes, like his real acting shoes, the dude can dance in the acting world. The guy's great. Sometimes he foams it in sometimes when he's doing other movies, but that's because he doesn't have his true acting shoes. But when he has them on, the guy can dance anybody out the window, and he was phenomenal in this movie. There are some moments in the movie where he was actually better than DiCaprio for me personally, but that's awesome. And DiCaprio, like I said, DiCaprio, I feel like when he has a bad movie, it's still good because it's DiCaprio. He puts 100% on this, on committed to the role. This one, I felt like he was on 200% because he was really into this role and it works. And his character was relatable. His character was funny at times. You felt sorry for him at some points of the movie, and and it was just cool to see him do these kind of roles, And then you get the backstory of what Hollywood actors have to go through when they're on sets to do movies. Sometimes they feel like they don't do their lines right, or they don't do they don't feel like they're playing the character properly. Sometimes they have arguments with directors. You actually see that in this movie, and it's actually really, really cool. So you to see how all Hollywood worked, especially in the 60s, it was awesome. Especially when back then they hippies were a lot of them were a lot out there at the time, especially in Hollywood, and see how they interact with Hollywood itself. We have to see that. Let's talk about Margot Robbie, because Margot Robbie to me is a gem. She's a gem. This woman is like a perfect example of what a Barbie doll should be look like in real life, and factually, she is going to be playing Barbie in a movie, so that's actually kind of cool. But I gotta admit something here, and this is my negative for this movie, because I was looking forward to seeing Margot Robbie team up with DiCaprio again. I love when they worked together the last time. It was Wolf of Wall Street, but that was Scorsese. But I was like, yes, they're gonna put them two. Maybe they're gonna be a couple. Maybe they can hook up in Hollywood or something like that. I was like, yeah, and we didn't get that. Margot Robbie's character, great character. She plays Sharon Tate. If you know the story of Sharon Tate and the real life story of that, I'm not gonna say anything else about it. All I can say about it was her character was misused very poorly, and it kind of broke my heart a little bit, because I love Margot Robbie. I think she's great. She's that actress that she can win an Oscar, and she has the talent for it. She's gonna have one in her mantle one day. So I'm like, yes, she's gonna be in this movie. But they have the story of Sharon Tate's story with the Manson stuff. It's in the movie, but it's not a real focus. There's so many like story plot points in this movie that don't fit well. You know how when you have a recipe and then you start adding ingredients to yourself because you want to make it your way? It's kind of like that. Too many cooks in the kitchens, a lot of people will say, when they do movie reviews. It was way too much. I felt like if Quentin Tarantino was just doing the story of Sharon Tate and that whole drama, that would have been awesome, because that character that she played felt cool and I wanted to see more, but her character was just there, and she had nothing to do with Brad Pitt's character or had nothing to do with DiCaprio, which was like weird. Yes, like if you watch the movie and you tell me, well, I thought she did a little bit, but it was like briefly. It's like not even anything to like, oh my god, she was in a scene with DiCaprio and Brad Pitt. Not really. No, I didn't like that. I'm like, you got Margot Robbie. She's like one of the highest like upcoming actresses in the planet right now, and you have her in this movie just to look good. Not that she didn't look good. She looked great in the movie, by the way. She is Hollywood. Like, seriously, she looks Hollywood, but she's awesome. So there's that. But I felt like her character was misused, and it's such a shame, because she's so good. I mean, not that she didn't do a bad job in the character, but I felt like her character was just, oh hi, I'm here for I'm here for my scenes, and then everybody else is filming somewhere else. It's like you have a cameraman looking at her to do her scenes all alone, but she wants to look at the DiCaprio section and Brad Pitt section because they're on the other side, but she's got to focus over here and only her. And she's got like a tree, maybe a couple little actors there with her talking, but then she wants to be on the big party, but she's not. She's in the same lot, but she's not in the same party. That's how I felt her character was in this movie. She was not invited to the big exclusive party, which was the movie itself. And that kind of stinked. So, what can you do? And also, I kind of felt this movie was kind of slow at point. Normally, when Quentin Tarantino has these movies, and he has a very unique way of doing films. Excuse me. He makes it fast paced. He makes sometimes his story's a little slow, but you're intrigued. I was intrigued, but it felt like I had to really, really pay attention to what the point of this movie was. And this movie doesn't really have a plot. You have an actor who's pretty much thinks he's a worthless person in the movie because he thinks his career is dying, and you have a stuntman who's way over himself, and that's pretty much the gist of it. And you have Margot Robbie's character, who is Sharon Tate, you know what I mean? Like, for people who don't know that story, myself included, I wanted more from her character, but what can you do, I never knew about the Sharon Tate stuff. I know a little bit about it, but I never knew, like, what made her who she was, You know, what really happened to her. You know, I'm not going to say what happens to her in this movie, but what really happens to her in real life. Does it affect this movie? You know what I mean? And but I would say this. Another good point about this movie, Quentin Tarantino did not disappoint me when it came to the scene. The Tarantino scene, as I like to call it. The Tarantino scene, is a lot of them in here, but he has that one scene that's in like every of his movies. Whether you're watching Kill Bill, where she's in that room where those guys, all the ninjas are fighting her. Whether it was Django Unchained, spoiler alert if you've never seen that, where he's in Candyland, when Jamie Foxx is in Candyland, he's smacking everybody, all the cowboy guys that work for him. That's the scene. But in this movie, there's a scene and it's hilarious and it works and it's great. I think I'll watch that movie again just for that scene alone, because when I get to that part, I'm telling you, I was going completely nuts. I was laughing so much. I think my insides were hurting. It was great. Oh man, like I said, this movie is fun. Not the best. Lot of pacing issues. The Margot Robbie stuff really hurt me because I really wanted to see more of her in that movie, and I thought her character was so interesting because I don't know anything about the Sharon Tate stuff, like I was saying, and I wanted to know more. But what can you do? It's still a pretty cool movie. I would recommend, if you're a Tarantino fan, you want to go check it out anyway, go check it out. It's worth it because Tarantino got cool movies, and sometimes they're not the strongest. I would say this. I've seen this movie once, and I'm already saying that this is better than Hateful Eight. And Hateful Eight to me was his weakest. It's close. I might have to watch it again. I feel like Hateful Eight might be better than this, but I might have to watch this one again to double check that. But it's certainly not better than Django. It's certainly not better than Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs, Kill Bill. It's not better than any of those films, because Kill Bill is one movie and that movie is a masterpiece. And yes, and I love Django Unchained too. That's like one of my favorite Quentin Tarantino movies besides Kill Bill. And I love Pulp Fiction too. That's a classic. So there's that. But I still had fun with this movie. It wasn't his best day at the office, as a lot of people will say, for this movie. But he did an okay job. DiCaprio was on point, like he always is. Brad Pitt was on point. Good for him. That was great. I'm sorry Margot was on the lot, but she wasn't invited inside to the party. You know what I mean? So I was like, oh, Margot, you're so great. You're so cool. Oh, man. And don't worry, she wasn't miscast or anything. She was great for the casting, obviously, because she's a blonde. But it's just like they unused her properly, and it was just a bummer because I kind of was hoping to see her hook up with DiCaprio, have a makeout scene or a sex scene or something with him, but nothing. She had screen time, but it was just herself. It felt like she was in her own movie while everybody else was doing their own thing in that world, and she was just there. But what can you do? But like I said, hopefully his 10th film, supposedly his last film, unless he has a loophole saying that it doesn't count because it's going to be a Star Trek movie. Hopefully that turns out better than this a little bit more. But, yeah. So, leave a comment below. Let me know what you guys thought about it, and stay tuned for more. Thank you very much, and have a good day.